Brad, Leslie, thank you for joining me tonight. I'd like to introduce you to those who are watching or listening. Brad is the founder of Young Men's Adventure Weekend, a rites of passage and mentorship organization that was founded in 1990 in BC, Canada, in response to helping young men launch successfully into meaningful life and adulthood. Brad is also the co-founder of the group KingMakers, which is a group for, in North America, men holding and hosting and working towards rites of passage and mentorship events and organizations for young men in these times. Brad is also a very skilled woodworker and carver, as you can see here. I'm definitely going to ask you a bit about that. Seen some beautiful work from you, and a skilled real estate agent, father, and I know a mentor and friend of many people, many men in this work, and somebody who I'm learning a lot from. And I'm sure there's a lot that I've probably left out in your life too, but wanted to start off with that. So how are you doing tonight, Brad?
Cool. Well, thanks for all that. I'm embarrassed when I hear my resume coming out. He's also a musician, see the guitars. Yeah, well, thanks for that. I look forward to our chat. I love doing this stuff in any format because the next generation of men, I can swear in it, was my language, they're fucked. Society is not looking after them at all. It's a downhill slide. I believe we have some answers that might assist their futures. So any opportunity to make a positive difference in their lives, the better. I say that I've been doing this for teenagers. I've been doing this for them before they were born. It's kind of cool. You'll get into the what as we proceed through the whole thing. Game on. Nice. Game on.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And yeah, maybe we could start off with this beautiful piece too of woodwork that you have there. If you want to share that, or we can get into it a little later as well.
Oh, just quickly, it's a pole I made, I don't know, 15 years ago. It's roughly some gnarly bird creature, part raven, part owl. It brings the spirit of birds soaring messages from on high. There's a little guy perched here under his horns. He's standing on roughly what looks like a mother bear. Tongues out with roughly the shape of a heart. So she speaks truth, love. Mm. She's carrying a gift. It's a little green box, and there's light coming out of it. And for whatever reasons, I have her sitting on a rhinoceros, but that's a whole other story. I've been carving for close to 50 years now. And it's like I've got spirit of the raven here. Give me instructions on what to carve next. Let's not do a whole carving thing. And they have quasi-indigenous qualities. But I basically pick up what's in the air in the wave band that I'm functioning in, which is mythological rites of passage. And these are the attendant spirits that are there. There's a whole wall of them over there. Enough on carving. Oh, there's this Beautiful. One too. It's Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man with a raven behind him. There's a bear, a wolf, and a killer whale.
Yeah, beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
Well, we're here to talk mostly about young men, and I'm curious to talk with you more about initiation, a little bit about what the challenge is, why this work has come back up to the surface in the last several decades. So maybe diving in there too, how would you describe initiation? You know, it's got the old ways, and then the modern world.
My brain just exploded with 46 different pages of stuff to talk about. How can I package it into one thing? I do the arc of the man. Let's do it this way. When a man is under 10 years old, he's in what I call mommy's world. He's taken care of, he's fed, he's protected. If he's always, he's kissed better, he's well looked, he's nurtured. When he's over 20 years old, he's in man's world. You get a job, you pay away, you're responsible, you're functional, or go get a shopping cart. I don't care. You're on your own, buddy. In the middle, there's the transition times when between 12 and 14, 10 and 14, there's the growth spurt, the emotional cocktail explodes, and they're just stoned on all the testosterone, adrenaline, ego, and whatever those things are. They're just gangling, bursting with this power that is the fuel for when they're full-grown men. When they're under 10 years old, they have needs, and the needs are met because they are needy. When you're over 20, you're responsible and you're accountable. Somewhere you're on your own. So often these days we find 30 and 40-year-old men who still have needs that are still 10-year-olds in that world. So we're going to start with this chemical cocktail that goes up in the early teens. And that's all the fuel, the power for them to be a bull elephant, to be a raging quarterback, tight end, football player, whatever your image of a strong, functional man is. But there's no transition, because in the arc of the man, you got the under 10, the young boy, the teenager. From in the 20s, you're into man's world. In the first part of man's world, from 20 to 30, I call it warrior's world, because you have to fight for a good job. You have to fight for your place in society. You have to fight for a good woman to impress her, to whatever. You have to fight. The 20s is the fight. After that, there's the thing, and then there's the king when you're doing well, and then there's elders, all that stuff. Now the king and the warrior and the elder and all the other bits don't magically appear. They're all nesting inside that 12 to 14-year-old. They're all nesting in there, dormant, waiting to be woken up. Now they're quite happy to be dormant. Oh, well, if they want us, they'll call us. Yep. And if there's a disaster, there's a car accident, the kid becomes a hero. Wow, he's awake. But these archetypal elements are resting inside the young man to be woken up. It's kind of where initiation comes in. In the olden days, the indigenous cultures, we draw inspiration from all the ancient indigenous cultures. We don't copy them, but we use there's a particularly known format. Joseph Campbell, in his book, look it up, talks about cycle of initiations and all that stuff. And in Africa, here's a stick, man. Go out in the jungle and don't come back till you got a lion. Or here the parallel thing was, here's a rock, don't come back until you killed a grizzly bear, to the 14-year-old. If they don't come back, well, it just didn't make it. We don't need the weak ones. We only want the strong ones. They're given some kind of a horrendous, scared shitless experience. I once listened to Nelson Mandela talking about his initiation in his tribe back in downtown South Africa when he was in one of the indigenous villages. It's not very nice. I'll see what I can do with it. On the appointed night, the men of the village took the young men from the village off to another camp somewhere. And there was drumming and chanting, the old guys intoning things. And then one by one, they were taken off to another little hut cabin thing. And you hear this. And there, the old man would stretch the foreskin out and with a sharp knife, slice his foreskin off. And If he yelled with the excruciating pain of having his dick cut off, welcome. If he screamed in pain, he's thrown out. It's very clear. He describes it a little more poetically.
As he does, yeah.
But that's that's an extreme example of an initiation at its essence. Yes, it's not very pretty, not very nice. Anyway, I'm not going to debate about that. That's a historical fact. That's what he said. That's what happened to him. And for a million years, different societies have had different permutations of some kind of a challenge to see what they're made of. An initiation is you go through life and then boop, something happens, after which you can no longer go back. So if you're going through life and there's a car smash and someone's dead there, the first time you see a dead man, oh, where's that sit? And you can't go back to never having seen a dead man before. With a woman, by way of example, it's a pretty good one. The first time she has a child, whoa, that's an initiation. And she can't go back to a time of not having had a child. When you get your easier one driver's license, there's your driver's license, but hey, I can drive my house soon. And you can't go back to not driving unless you screw up. So an initiation is something that there's a change after which you can't go back. Like a revolution. Again, in its simplest terms. I think Campbell talks about the separation. They're taken away from their home, out into the wilderness. Watch my movies on ymaw.com. They're taken from their moms, put in a bus, driven 5 hours out in the wilderness into where the hell are we going? Separation from the family. Then there's an ordeal, 48 hours of mayhem. Put in teams, barked at, screaming, yelling, climb a tree, do this. And then there's the return and the reintegration. And when they left home, the ordeal happens and they come back. 9 times out of 10, they've changed. Something has changed. Let me do a slight digression. In initiations that we're doing, story, I think it was 2005 or 6, out there somewhere. And on the Saturday afternoon of our weekend, Young Men's Adventure weekend, I think the energy is building up. It's you can feel it pulsing in the air. Whoa, there's something going on in here. And it's primordial, and for those not used to it, it's a little scary. And I'm sitting by the campfire, and all the teams are out in the forest doing their different events and stuff. And our shaman comes. Oh, if it was a cartoon of it, the ground shaking, the barn explodes, a cow flies through the air, the German dive bomber, lightning, so whatever. Chasms, rift valleys open up in the ground. And into this energy of the whole thing, our shaman comes staggering down the trail towards me through the forest, as if his hair was on fire. And he was totally apoplectic. He could not speak. But if he could speak, he'd say, what the fuck's going on here? Because this guy in shaman, he's still, whoa, you're cooking something big here. And then here comes the punchline. It occurs to me that whenever we, the men, put on an initiation for them, the young men, we're all in the same cauldron, and none of us are immune. We're all going to get something. It's not just the teenagers, it's the men on the production team, the staff. We're all going to get something, usually involving the next rung on your ladder. Like it's initiation is custom built for you. So whatever comes next for you. I think about the next rung on the ladder is you can't see it till you're up there, until the boom, something happens, and then you discover this new territory. We choreograph the weekend, so there's lots of challenges for them. No idea who's going to get what out of it. I'll do for your first question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm could go so many directions on that, and one thing that I'm sitting with that's coming up for me is whether it's a traditional rite of passage where our ancestral ancestors would have um, purposely created it. What I'm thinking of is like there's some severance. The story you told me with Nelson Mandela's, or uh, there's a wound created often.
Maybe, yeah.
If you say it that way, I've heard Michael Mead talk about it a little bit like that, um, and I've heard Michael Mead mention that in our modern world, there's already a lot of uh, wounding. It's internal, and so it's almost the substrate to work within. It seems that's the way that I've sort of picked it up. Where um, for cultural reasons and ancestral generational reasons, a lot of wounded people or who have grown up and not or are growing up not receiving the right acknowledgement into these next steps and stages of young adulthood or adulthood. So there's already a wound being created there. I don't know if you see that at all too, just as something to work with, because obviously we don't need to, um, you know, actually inflict any wounds like the stories you created. They're
Hurt enough already.
there.
There's yeah, we're sort of conflating a couple of things. There's Michael Mead and my other buddy Gabor Mate talk about the original traumas and wounds. And if you have the entire population of the world scaled like this, there's maybe Jesus up here, I'm fine. And there's, if it's 1,000 points, over 500, there's maybe 8 people are pretty good, but under 200, you got 7 billion people who are hurt in one way or another. It's a past life thing. They got circumstances. There's pain and grief all over the place. So that's just the whatever gets off the bus. And today's society, broken families, broken families, broken families. Don't get me going on that one. Societal stuff. Remind me to talk about the path of the angel. Write that down. Let's about the path of the angel. They all come in presenting different facets depending on where they are. There's a chunk that we do in our event, and we don't. I'll talk about our chunk in a minute. But if you imagine behind me, there's the archives of 1 million years of initiations. And I've heard a few things, I've read a few books, I've seen a few things. And there's all the input from today's society and our men. Oh, we should do this, we should do that, we do the other. And then there's a whole realm of the inspiration that comes from somewhere else, the angelics, whatever you want to call these guys, they're kind of cool. Inspiring, oh, we should try this and throw that one in. So the content of the weekend, it's fresh every time for us. It's not like a 9-hour Catholic mass that repeats the same, and ever. No, these things are visceral. They're real time. They're real life. What was I saying about the path of the angel? I was going with that one. Let's do the path of the angel. I did the arc of the man. I'll do the arc of the angel.
Mm-hmm.
Before we're born, the incarnating soul. Yes, you got to bear with me for past lives and incarnating souls and stuff. Imagine a story. Our life-activating source is like a little grain of salt or sand or sugar, little grain. Before we're born, that little grain it's floating around in space or universe or whatever's out there. I'm not exactly sure. And it's imbued with all the angelic qualities of healing, creativity, love, support, healing, love, support, fun, creativity, healing, love, creativity, all those wonderful angelic things. I can only think of 4 of them. But whatever the angelic qualities are imbued into this little speck of light that is our activating purpose, our activating principle. the little sparkle. I think I'm going to get born now. Yeah, that time, those people, those parents, and they go, yeah, okay, I'm going to get born now. Wow. And the moment he's born, he forgets. Ugh. So we've got these gorgeous angels inside of us, totally forgotten. What is this? And then life, society conspires to pull us away from our center even more, with war as a way of life, continually financial paranoia, lousy nutrition, nothing to do with elders, no tradition, no support of individual creativity. There's about 1,000 things that society does to get us away from. This is where the source, where the angel, the speck of light lives. It's somewhere in this territory. Society conspires to pull us away from ourselves even more. What I want to do is just bring us back home. There's no churchianity to it. It's just your soul, your spirit. Let's do a fun one now. So everyone has this little speck of light. So I'm here to inform you, basically you're an angel and you've forgotten. And then the angel, when it gets here, has a gift, something to give. And then the angel also has a purpose, a job to do. So you, sir, anybody watching this, you're an angel, you got a gift, and you got a job to do, your purpose. What I want to do is get us back home so we can do more of that. So we can just move the baseline up a little bit, one teenager at a time. We're fighting a battle when we get, in our town, there's 6 fentanyl deaths a day, and there's so many bankruptcies and war of the week and the pestilence and whatever. Don't get me going about that shit. I'm trying to address all of that. So if you have more men with integrity being the kings and the leaders, it might help. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I really appreciate the path of the angel. When I was probably younger than 6 years old, I remember thinking that I was born with some greatness inside of myself. And I remember feeling that. And then as I got a little older and older, I just sort of pushed that down. It's like, oh, that's stupid. That's some ego thing. And I didn't receive an intentional community rite of passage when I was coming of age, in the teenage years, and I did do foolish things and really try to test the limits of where I was at. And it was luckily, into my mid-20s when I first began to experience and reconnect with that that spark of light inside myself. And then even later than that I actually came across this concept of a rite of passage and realized, wow, that would have been really helpful for me. And so I'm wondering, how do we draw that out of it as mentors, as men, elders, as which I'm not, but yeah, what does that look like to begin to draw that out in a community context that doesn't really support this stuff?
Yeah, the whole one of your opening comments is where the elders go. There aren't any here. Like your elders, your prominent men are Donald Trump and Homer Simpson, and a bunch of idiots in the U.S. government. Most government guys there, they ain't kings. There's nothing beneficent there. When the king's in the country or the king's in his house, the husband, the dad is in the house, the king brings security. It's safe here. There's no one in any prominent role that engenders any sense of safety or comfort or security. None of them do that. So the elders are missing in action. I have this made-up story that when the first boats left Europe to come to America, and then they went back for the second load, there's all the old folks there and the kids, and the captain said, you know what, on the way over, a bunch of the old folks that just didn't make it. It takes like 3 or 4 months in the middle of the ocean. It's not pretty. The elders aren't going to make it. When you get there, there's rocks and trees. There's nothing. There's nothing. Why don't we just leave the elders at home? So for the longest of time, the seniors, the elders, anybody over like 35 was left at home. And then the ones that were older coming over, they were straight military. That didn't have the beneficent elder headspace. So North America was initially populated by, I won't say but fewer elders. And those extractions of all the different religions and all those things, but they subsequently they didn't amount to much. I'm not going to go down that tunnel. So there's no culture of the elder in North America. Again, our indigenous, native, local born folks have something, but they've been pretty well trashed by us white guys. So there's no culture of the elder and the wisdom. You know, seniors my age, they're thrown in old folks' homes, and they just shamble around from day to day. Something good for them is going to Tim Hortons for coffee with a bunch of other elders there. No one goes, "Hey, Grant, tell me some stories," or "How do I handle this?" or whatever. There's no culture of the elder here, or the matriarchs. And whatever you see on TV is just buffoonery. I'm not going to spend any time on the decline of man. The phenomenon of man, M-A-N, is in decline. It's disrepute. It's sliding. So they're going to make it even less. So I think I'm going to step into my office here. Just give me a second while I step into my office here.
Sure.
I go there and then ding, ding, blink. There, my office.
Mm.
That's a Saturday night at Young Men's Weekend. My pole here too.
Yeah.
No, don't worry.
Yeah. So what's at what stage is this? So what's going on in a weekend like this, or what's the energy of what you're able to talk about, at least? Because I know that there is a level of confidentiality in these things too.
Well, there's a bunch of elements and a bunch of processes you can watch. We've got 8 or 10 or a dozen little 3-minute postcard videos. We're out in the wilderness on a huge lake. They put in teams. Yeah, the stuff I can tell you ain't going to tell you anything. It's a cross between a scout camp, a scout camp, and a rugby game. Let's do it this way. If you and I and a dozen other men are on a construction crew and we're building a house, and a bunch of 12-year-olds get off the bus. Hey, can we help? Can we help you? I got a hammer. And we sort of look at them sideways. Get out of here. One, we don't like them. 2, if they step onto the construction site, they're dangerous. They got no training. They don't know about safety protocols. In man's world, we don't like them, and they're dangerous, and they distract. We can't get the house built because we got to stop and I hurt myself and deal with their shit. So number one, in man's world, those things are not welcome. They're dangerous. They're a liability. Oh, like 30-year-old, 10-year-olds. But what we can do when you can, then those men that know that they can make a difference, the mentors, the elders, the soccer coaches, the baseball coaches, the team coaches, take them under a wing and start, okay, buddy, this is the way you hold a hammer. Put your hard hat on. Here's the safety wrap. And they got to go through a training to get them to be safe and useful in man's world. That's what the initiation does. Let me turn that around. The other end of that same story is, for the average 10 or 12-year-old, 50-50 if he has an active dad in his family. Because the divorce rate, depending on which stats you read. If he does have a dad in the house, half of those don't know what they're doing. And the other half are mom won't, don't yell at my kid. Dad's under mom's thumb. And the other half, yes, the 3 halves of the half that do have dads, they're pretty cool. They're good guys. They do the sports things. They're engaging. So that there are a number of really good dads. Let me back up a second. Anything I say, there's a bell curve. So what I'm saying is here, there's yeah buts on both ends. So it's 80% is fairly accurate, but there's yeah buts 10% on either end of what I say. Okay, so
Yeah.
if you throw a yeah but, it's in there. I'm saying 80 say yes. There's what I say. All black girls don't have an active dad, but they're pretty well. It's game over for those girls. Yeah, but what about Oprah? What about Beyonce? Right? They're the 10% at either end. So where was I? So for the average 10 or 12-year-old young man, doesn't have a prominent, active, useful, good dad. Some of them do, very few. They have TV as a role model of Trump and Homer Simpson. The men that they do have around, and then at school, it's mostly women teachers, and this whole thing of the decline of man, they're not supported or trashed for showing up. You say a wrong word, and the word Nazis will get you, and then you're crushed and shunned. School teachers saying, no, you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Cops barking at them are the only time they see cops. The representation of man on TV. I try watching sitcoms, but 30 seconds into them, I'm gagging. They're puke. So the young man, 10 to 12 years old, doesn't have a very good picture of what an adult male is, which is a real shame because in 10 years, he's going to be one. And no one's showing him how to get there, to be a man of integrity, competence, reliability, right? Strong quarterback. We are Sparta. Well, I should not Sparta there. I'm talking the quarterback that's because he's strong. He doesn't pick fights. He just has a strength, right? The warrior does not pick. Soldiers fight, but the warrior does not pick fights. Quite often we stop them, but we don't pick them. So being a strong man is a very good thing. The average 10 or 12-year-old has no idea that it exists or how to get there. That's where we come in, by having these 3 days out in the wilderness. With a couple of magic.
Yeah, that made me think of, just over the last year or two, I started to get into an internal Chinese martial art that had some self-defense, some combat in it. And even for myself at my age, I'm 33, it was uncomfortable to find my strength and be in that.
Yeah.
And that really blew my mind. And also, as I continue to show up and train and find those edges, I've got to know myself more and how I show up in the world, and so it was this good strength. I didn't want to go out and
You're not going to hurt anybody.
but it helped me really be in my truth a little bit more.
Yeah, the black belts cannot start fights out in the street. A black belt will never start a fight. You see a guy and there's some kind of recognition as a black belt, you can go and scratch his, he can't do anything to you because he knows he can kill you. But he has the integrity that goes with it. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
We got about 2 or 3 more questions in 10 minutes. Then we'll have to go to chapter 2.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, just on that too, talking about initiation, what are values are the word, or but what are we initiating the young men into? What sort of, I think, because there's an initiation into launching into the world in a meaningful life. I've heard you say, be a useful man, I think. And so I don't know if you want to share anything on that. What are some of these things that these young men are stepping into in terms of meaningful mentorship and initiation?
Yeah, I did. I might ask you to come back to the question. I'm going to answer it this way and come back to that one.
Sure.
I was on another panel, and the guy setting the thing up says, what do you think about this gender thing, the role of man, place in society, and what do you think about politics and what's your position on whatever the disaster of the day is, climate, and all these guys were, the other panels were trying to address those topics. I approach it as an eternal thing. Is for a man to be in touch with himself. So we are specifically interdenominational. No, we're non-denominational. I make a point of desanitizing any religiosity out of this stuff, so it's open for anybody. We keep it high in of spirit, which is the it's an experiential thing. It's not a, well, which book do you want to, we don't throw books at each other. Well, my book says this, my book says, no, it's experiential to get your spirit and your vitality. Whoa, where'd that come from? Like you just did. And with that, and then the angel with the gift and the purpose, when you're in that position, there's a higher consciousness attitude. You're above the muck. Wow, I'm powerful. I can go beat the crap out of everybody. No, they don't do that. Wow, I'm powerful. Where can I help? Where can I be of service? So I'm more interested in initiating them back into themselves and to vitality and integrity. And then within that, they can go back to their families and apply it wherever. I'm not going to, there's no, here's your handbook on the buzzwords for each of the 20 different societal disasters that are out there. Good luck with that, buddy. It's whatever battlefield you happen to be sitting in or wake up in. Bring your initiated self to there and then find your expression, your thing there. So you've got a greater chance of saying something right and doing something right. Once you know, it seems to me we're going to go this way. No, that sucks. I feel we're going this way. So that they have their own access to a greater degree of being more right, more accurate, more truth in what they do. So I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. Actually, I don't like either of those guys. Or which football. I don't care if they're Seahawks or Broncos fans. God bless you. Go out and enjoy the game. There you go. It's a safer analogy for it. Yeah. In whatever your environment is. Usually it's school and girls. There's the parents and the jobs and whatever else. Had one of our guys called me for lunch the other day and wanted to talk a few things over, which is kind of cool because he counts me as the elder. And how long have you been with us? Since I was 12. How old are you now? 29. And he's been with us more or less. There's a couple of them that have been with us like 15 years, starting as teenagers and working all the way through. And then our events are for 12 to 17-year-olds. And then if you're 20 plus, you can come back on the production side, staff time. But there's a couple of them that stayed all the way through. It's just woven into their families. It's a place of service and learning and hanging out with some men of integrity, which is a rare thing these days.
Yes, unfortunately.
Two questions ago.
2 questions, right. So, got 2 that we could talk about and go one direction or the other, but I'm thinking of, you alluded to this, the men that show up, whether as mentors or part of some of these events and how they're changed in that. I'm also thinking something you mentioned, the mothers who may be single mothers raising a son and what that need might be to get them involved in healthy male mentorship, rites of passage. So do you want to take one of those topics to
say them again?
So men, I've heard stories, being on the KingMakers calls, they're changed going to an event like this. It's not only an initiation rite of passage event for the young men, but there seems to be something for everybody.
We're really sneaky that way. We're totally sneaky that we're a bunch of assholes. Yeah, come on out and help the teenager. Yeah, I'll be way cool. Yeah, I'm gonna help the teenager. Then twang. You guys come out of there crying and yeah. The weekends are for the men. The teenagers are just the excuse. We never see them again. You know, we might, but the when you get to do ours, you'll see 50 teenagers, but you'll never see them again. The ongoing relationship between you and you. So the men get tons out of it, and men, they stick around for like 5, 10 years. Some of them. And sometimes they hit a wall they don't like because they're gone after a year or so. But there's something in it for everything. For single moms, a couple of things. One of the best things you can do for a teenage male is to keep him in team sports, contact team sports, soccer, baseball, football, basketball, team sports. Learns relationship, interactions, physical. There's 47 good things in team sports. Is a vital thing to ensure the success of a teenager going through the teenage years. The other thing for a single mom to do is call the dad and maintain a polite and professional relationship with the dad, because the young man's going to grow up in the image of the dad, no matter how much she despises, disparages, doesn't matter. It's not about the parents anymore. When there's the other, the individual ceases to exist. So if you want your young man to succeed, make sure there's a good functional relationship with the dad. Well, they hate that. Because they want to be so right. He's an asshole. Doesn't matter. That's his son. And the ones that, okay, I'm going to stop there. That's a whole other, another hour just on the impact of single moms.
Yeah, we can save that for
God bless
part
them.
2.
God bless them. They're doing the best and they're doing great.
Right.
And they need a lot of help, which is where we come in.
Great. So we got one more question.
Yep.
More. So can you share a bit more about KingMakers and how people can get to Young Men's Adventure Weekend if they're interested? Just to share a little bit more about what's going on and these on-ramps to the work you're doing.
So we started Young Men's Adventure Weekend in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Came from a conversation in February 1990, and we had our first event June 1990. And we cobbled some stuff together, and we were inspired by these whispering things. And then over a couple of years, it took a life of its own. And when I figured out it has a life of its own, it was dragging me along. Okay, I'm in. And along the way with doing that, what year was it? That was another men's event in California, chatting with a couple of men there. Oh, we do this thing. I got in trouble with my teenage. Well, bring them up to my thing. So they came up to, 2 men and 1 son came up to our weekend. And the dad got totally lit up and took it back to California. He said, I'm going to do this forever. And he did. He spoke to his local men's organization, and a few months later, they put on their first Young Men's event. Actually, they named it after us, Young Men's Adventure Weekend. And there was total mayhem. He said, yeah, they made 10 years worth of mistakes, lessons in the first event just to get caught up with us. And then where through that stratosphere, I'll get calls from time to time. And then there's a huge men's conference in Vegas. I hate the place, but it was a great conference. There's about 600 men in the hotel, big ballroom thing. And there's an open mic thing. I stepped up to them. I said, I do work with teenagers. We do initiations like men's initiation, but for teenagers. So they don't have to wait until they're 45 years old and fall off the bus. You know, we work with them now. Anybody interested? I hear this scrum and I turn around, there's 30 men standing behind me. What? You interested? Yeah. You take names and numbers. We'll have a conference call in 10 days. So at a conference call, probably 20, 25 showed up for it. The first couple of calls were just deciding a name of a bunch of guys to hang out. And it was apparent that they were all in some ways interactive with with teenagers. There was counselors, the school counselors, drug, alcohol people, sports, whatever, all somehow or other focusing their energies on supporting teens. So we kicked it around, and we called ourselves the KingMakers, because out of all of our efforts, we're going to make at least one king. And there's no good model what a king is these days. But when he shows up, you'll know, who he is. And we've met every second Wednesday since 2008. And I think I might have missed one call. And it's an elders bench. It's a place where I can go and talk to my peers about stuff, the things at my level of things. And we exist as an archive and resources for anybody else wanting to do anything else. And along the way, we've become a network, probably 20 or 30 different organizations that I'm aware of doing aligned work, different but aligned, all around North America. So what you got in Toronto? Well, there's these guys. Well, there's them out of Montreal. You can see the guys in New England, they're doing that, a bunch in New York. I have a little side anecdote there. No. Yeah, so you can put up the our contact information. Put up my phone number and email. Always happy to chat. First half an hour is free. If it's way cool, then we'll keep going. Who knows? There might be a known podcast one day. One more thing I want to say about the KingMakers. One night there was on Zoom here, and there was about 15, but not 20 men on a little squares, like Hollywood squares. And we had two men that came from, I don't know where they were, somewhere on the East Coast. And they were a men's team. They're quite proud of the fact we've been a men's team for 3 years, and we meet every Monday night. And we've been talking about higher purpose and higher purpose and higher purpose and what it means and what it looks like. And so we're pretty well got figured out what higher purpose is. And you do anything? Well, no, we're talking about a lot. Okay. You see all these men on the screen here, all 15 of them here. These men have been doing in action higher purpose for the last 10, 15, 20, 30, and 35 years. These men have been doing higher purpose. We're not just talking about it. We've done it. He's done it for 20 years. He's done it for 25 years. I've been doing this stuff for close to 40 years. Doing higher purpose. That's who the KingMakers are.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have to do a part 2. And
yeah, there's a list of all your topics here. We got through like 3 out of 20.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening how deep you can go with these, and it's kind of touching the surface.
Yeah, well, the world's totally fucked, and I believe we have an answer, or steps towards not the decline, but moving up a notch. So when you have young men and then men with a little more integrity, vitality, role of service, these are good things to have out there.
Yeah,
that's where I was going. We prefer, but we're not limited to men who've done some self-development. Those magic weekend whoop-de-doo things are all over the place, where they've already gone through some inner discovery and what they want to do. They have a sense of some greater potential. And there's lots of room for what I call good-hearted earthmen. The ones that, hey, this is a good thing. I'll come and flip burgers for you. Or I'll load the truck, or I can help build the outhouses for you. It's not rocket science. You don't have to have a high degree of metaphysical sophistication. It's just a good thing to be doing for the planet. And then when you see them, when we do we call it the gauntlet on the way out. There's all the production team lined up, and then it's like the baseball game, and they just file past each other. And on the way in, they just backwoods baseball cap. Shirley, fuck you. I don't want to be here. My mom made me, I hate you, asshole. I'm going to kill you. The Friday. And then on the Sunday afternoon, 48 hours later, staring in the eyes, strong handshake. Thanks, man. That was great.
Hmm.
You get a bunch of those from 48 Turner. I think we did something good.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Just to look somebody in the eyes and shake their hand. And I mean, that's that confidence building, really, that I'm hearing from that. Yeah.
And they're going to be a lot more useful because of it.
We've got some good stuff to talk about for the next one. Brad, Leslie, thank you very much for having this conversation with me tonight.
You're welcome. Great chatting. Anytime.